What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And all over social media, ever since yesterday's highly convincing 3-0 win over Brighton, people are falling all over themselves to say just that. That Arsenal really do look the business. That we are a phenomenal team in possibly the best form of any team in Europe at the moment. I mean, you only have to look at this calendar year. We've played 11 games. We've won 10 of them. We've scored 38 goals and conceded only 4. We last conceded a goal on the road in the game against Nottingham Forest at the end of January. Since then, it's been 5 clean sheets. But even more than that, because the clean sheets only tell you part of the story. In the last 5 games, we've conceded 4 shots on target, and that includes a visit away to the treble-winning Manchester City, a team that was supposed to batter us. How many of their fans told us, it's a different thing when you come to the Etihad. Yes, you might have gotten lucky and beaten us in the Community Shield and the Emirates, but when it comes to Manchester City coming to our place, you will fall. And we didn't. Now, I'm going to be the first to say that when I did my Premier League prediction about a month ago, I predicted that we would lose. I predicted we would lose at the Etihad. I just thought that when the business end of the season comes around with their players back in form, De Bruyne and Haaland available, with Rodri in the side. After all, they don't lose with Rodri in the side. Me, the bookies, everybody, probably even you if you're honest, felt that this would be a bridge too far for Arsenal. And then we got that draw. Restricted them to the one shot, as I've said, and held out. It was a masterclass defensively. But people said, all you've done now is hand a decisive victory, hand a decisive advantage to Liverpool. So yesterday's game away to Brighton, that I had predicted a draw in, that was something else. That was something else because we showed a togetherness. Some of the best moments of that game for me. Yes, Trossard running on a goal after having been booed on and beautifully putting the ball past Verbruggen. Waiting for him to go to ground and then lifting the ball over him casually almost. He's definitely our best finisher in front of goal. That was a highlight. Kai Havertz. So much of the season has been about whether Kai Havertz was a waste of money or a terrible signing. The wonder save from David Raya, who I really do think has now established himself as a number 1. Whatever that means for Ramsdale. I still hope Ramsdale decides to stay and fight for a place. He still hasn't reached his ceiling and can still improve. But Gabriel, with his kneeling down to stop the ball going past him, it wouldn't have made any difference, but that desire to keep a clean sheet. This defensive unit, having conceded 4 goals in 11 games this year, that is something that even the George Graham era would have been jealous of. After all, if you extrapolate, if you said, if these 11 games were spread out over a 38-game season, it means that we'd probably concede only 14 goals in a season. That's better than Jose Mourinho's Chelsea, the park the bus team. But we weren't a park the bus team yesterday. We haven't been a park the bus team all season. Apart from, of course, a defensive masterclass at Manchester City. So where does this really leave us? Well, honestly, when I did my Premier League prediction a month ago, I said I think that Manchester City will come good and they will win. They'll take the points off us and they'll go on. I still saw difficult fixtures for us. Of course, the City game, the Brighton game, but also the away game at Spurs, who, look, banter club aside, they are a team to be feared at their own ground. They can win. They haven't been as convincing. Certainly all the Spurs fans that were talking about how they're realistic title contenders all have egg on their face now, as they do every time they say silly things like that. And they will continue to say them. And it is a worry for me that they might be the decisive reason why we aren't able to win the league this season. But I think for me what's changed is the way I'm looking at Arsenal now, the way I see our performances and our run-in. Let's take a look at the remaining fixtures of the 3 clubs. Because with Liverpool travelling to Old Trafford this afternoon in just an hour or so, I have a feeling that this may not go the way Liverpool fans want it to. They haven't looked as convincing. Yes, they've been winning games, Yes, they have most of their players back, but not all of them. And of course, the last time they travelled to Manchester, it was a defeat in the Cup, admittedly. This Liverpool team have only lost twice all season. Once against us, where they were absolutely battered, truth be told, and once, the greatest travesty of the season so far, 2 sendings off that probably shouldn't have been, and a goal chalked off that was perfectly good because of VAR. Even in a season beset by VAR controversy, this was a real low point for the VAR system. So, arguably, they've really only lost 1 game this season, and people will tell you, Liverpool are at least experienced in winning the title. But I'm not sure that's the whole truth either, by the way, because in the starting 11 that goes to Old Trafford today, there are only 3 players in that team who've actually won a league. It is just another sign of how great a manager Jurgen Klopp is. He was entirely able to rebuild the midfield from last season when they let 6 midfielders go, and they are where they are now. But we're going to look ahead at their fixtures, and I see some potential banana skins for them as well. But let's imagine that they go away to Old Trafford and they get a victory. Let's imagine that Liverpool win all of their remaining games. Then it doesn't matter what Arsenal or City do. Liverpool will win the title and will be deservedly hailed as the champions. And I have to say, they'd be one of the best champions of all time if they achieve that. But there are 8 games left to go. The chances of them winning all 8 games, game by game, it's not inconceivable. But we all know football doesn't do that. There are some slip-ups here or there. I think it's realistic to expect them to get 2 draws out of their remaining 8 games. And I'm going to look at those in a moment, as I said. Manchester City, probably the easier run-in of the 2 teams that we're up against. But even they have the potential to drop points. But let's start with Arsenal's fixtures, because our next home game, after we take on Bayern Munich at home, is Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, I think, when they went to the City ground in midweek, that was pretty disgraceful, really. Dropping players to be fit for a game on the weekend that they had to win and then still didn't. You have to think that they've fallen away badly enough that we should expect to get 3 points from them. And in a season which just seems to have been all about Arteta being right when people criticised him consistently, there was that period around our little wobble in December where people said we should have stuck with Unai Emery, which is just madness, absolute madness. And I think can only be the result of the fact that people had forgotten just how bad it was at the end of the Unai Emery era. But after we've played Aston Villa and hopefully beaten them at home, we travel away to Wolves. Wolves are a surprise package, potential banana skin. I really love the way that Gary O'Neill's got them playing, but they are better on the road. And like I've said so many times this season, if we are going to win the title, going away to Wolves is exactly the kind of tie that we need to win. And I believe that if you look at our defensive record at the moment, the Wolves probably don't have quite enough about them to score twice against us. And with us scoring almost 3.5 goals a game on average, you'd fancy us to take the points there. Wolves don't have so much to play for and there isn't so much in it for them. After that, we have the Chelsea game at home. I don't think it's outrageous for me to expect us to take 3 points against Chelsea. I know they'll be up for it. I know that they played really well to come back from a losing position against Manchester United, but really, the fact that they were in that losing position after having a 2-0 lead tells you quite a lot about them. If Manchester United can go to your home ground to get 3 goals against you, then I really do fancy us to beat Chelsea. And then it all comes down to the Spurs match. Spurs match, as I already said, that's a potential banana skin. Let's assume that we only get a point from that. Then Bournemouth at home and United away. Now, it's true also, by the way, that if we do go past Bayern into the semi-finals of the Champions League, which is a hell of a performance, then we have difficulty of either Real Madrid or Manchester City in between these games against Spurs and United with Bournemouth in between. And that's going to pile on the pressure. But our team has a better looking squad than it's had in, well, probably in the last 20 years. There are players who we can rotate in and out that can do a job. You could imagine a full rotation against Bournemouth at home. After all, that's a game we're going to win. I'm certain of that. Then it's Manchester United away. This is a fixture that shouldn't really hold too many fears for us. But let's assume we get a point from that as well. The final day of the season, I think all three teams will win their games. Ours is Everton at home. And even if it's a must-win game for Sean Dyche's Everton, I just don't see it. We'll win that. So the probability is, if games go as I've just outlined, we will finish on 88 points. If Manchester City win all of their remaining games, the most they can finish on is 91. So it only takes one slip up. They still have to go to Brighton away and they still have to go to Spurs away. And it's highly conceivable to me that they would drop 2 points in those. That means that they finish on 89 points, 1 point ahead of us. But that's with only one draw. If they draw both, they will not be champions this season. It's hard to see it. It's hard to predict, isn't it? It's hard to predict. It's quite possible that Manchester City will win all the remaining games. But in their last 9 games, they have drawn 3 times. So it's not like they are the Manchester City we've all come to expect. Now let's look at Liverpool, because Liverpool really is the team to fear at the moment. After all, if they win all their remaining games, they're champions, as I've already said. Today, they take on Manchester United away. If they get 3 points from that, it'll be convincing, not just because it's a must-win game, but because they've watched Manchester City beat Crystal Palace. They've watched Arsenal go away and convincingly beat Brighton. And they will be feeling the pressure, just as we did when we had to take on Brighton at home after watching Man City brush Everton to one side. That is going to play a part. As I've already mentioned, you can talk about them being previous champions, but that's not the core of their team. Might be the spine of their team. Salah's won a championship. Salah, Robertson and Van Dijk have all won the Premier League and know what it takes. Maybe they will drag the rest of the team with them. But there's enough. But there are players in that team that you can imagine the nerves will get to, just like it got to our team last season. After that, they have Palace and Fulham at home. I don't really see them dropping any points in that. But could I see a derby against Everton away? Could I see that being a draw? West Ham away, I give them a comfortable win, but maybe not that comfortable. Spurs at home, I think they'll, with revenge in their hearts, they'll sweep them to one side. But then Aston Villa away. Aston Villa beat Man City, beat Arsenal at home, probably be right in the heart of a top 4 battle at that point. That's potentially difficult. So what if they do drop points in 3 of these games? And notice I haven't predicted any of the 3 teams to lose. But what if it is a draw today against Manchester United? What if they do only get a draw against Everton? What if Villa is a draw? Well, then I see them finishing on 88 points. And that means even if we draw against Manchester United and Tottenham, we'll still beat Liverpool. So something has changed, not just in the way that people talk about Arsenal who aren't Arsenal fans, but even in me now. I, up until yesterday, really didn't believe we could win the title. I hoped, I dreamed. I never give up hope. I'm a fan and I will support in that way, and I will support with hope and optimism all the time, because everything else is just boring. As much as I'm the last to be truly objective about Arsenal, sometimes it is just that hope and optimism when I talk about us winning games. But after watching us do what we did against Brighton, I'm starting to believe that we aren't going to wobble the way we have done before. That this is a team that could go away to Old Trafford and win if we had to, just like we've done before to win the league. This is a team that can travel away to Spurs and win. This is an Arsenal team, I think, out of the 3, that is just as likely to win all its remaining games. I just don't see all 3 teams winning their remaining games. Man City with their easiest run in, perhaps. Liverpool, though. Will today show I'm right? Will their visit to Old Trafford deliver the surprise result, the draw, or worse, that Liverpool must be dreading after having watched us? Last season was a real feeling amongst Arsenal fans and players, and Arteta, I'm sure, that no matter what you do, Man City will roll on behind you and grind out victories. And that affects your thinking. Knowing that you cannot slip up at all makes a slip up almost inevitable. Makes a slip up almost more inevitable. And I think that is going to play a part with Liverpool. That and the fact that their away fixtures in the European games leaves less time for recovery. They have Atalanta in the Europa Cup on a Thursday. There's a reason I think that no Premier League team has won the league and the Europa Cup at the same time. It's just really difficult to do. So since yesterday's performance at Brighton, that togetherness, that team spirit, that defensive performance, the work rate of our team eclipses that of Liverpool and Manchester City at the moment. And when it comes to it, it is defences that win leagues. And if that is the case, then we've won this league. Because our defence is incomparably better than Manchester City's and Liverpool's. Both teams have been conceding goals. Whilst they don't necessarily look like losing after conceding, and they can turn around games, there is more drama in the way they're playing, and that's more energy sapping. Ours is far more efficient and businesslike. So I believe now. Let me know in the comments if you do as well. I think there's more and more of us. Let me know in the comments if you think that I'm wrong about my predictions in some of the games, or if you think that there's any chance that Liverpool could win the rest of their games and it doesn't really matter what we do at that point. We should just concede to them now. Jurgen Klopp's last season as a manager in the Premier League, on some level it would be beautiful and poetic for him to achieve that. And not just beating Man City or Arsenal, but beating both of them. What an amazing achievement. For me, I believe in Arsenal. For me, as I've said, it's Arsenal this season. Because I can see us winning the remaining games. And I don't necessarily think we have to win all 7 of our remaining games. But I'm off to watch Manchester United hopefully do a job against Liverpool. I am a Manchester United fan today. I'm not dissimilar from most of their fans. I'm from the south. I don't go and watch the games. I'm a Red Devil for the day. Only one day though, and that's it. Until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.